No, but it's actually, can I just say, like, I actually genuinely hated you at the beginning of this year in May. Like, I genuinely, when you did that video.
From the Instagram reality one?
Yeah, like, genuinely disliked you and thought you were, like, disgusting.
I've been wanting to make a podcast with, like, another comedian for a while, and I don't mean that to compliment you. I think I mean, like, two big personalities. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, when I kept trying to think of people to do it with, I always thought, me and Trisha have a really funny chemistry. We had, yet again, another disastrous episode of The Bachelor, season 2, featuring you. Mm-hmm. We all thought it ended in disaster. Mm-hmm. But now you are dating my brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. Why and how has this happened?
The truth?
Yes, I want the truth.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Feeling in my heart that I need to step away from Frenemies, and it's really, really with a heavy heart that I say that.
I remember before I was gonna give birth, like the day I went into like labor, it was like 5 a.m. and I was supposed to like get a wax that day. I was gonna shave my legs, shower. I just wanted to straighten my hair, and I couldn't even straighten my hair because the labor pains were so intense. Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang is present on this here December day. As per today's title, we're going to talk about the Trisha Paytas / Moses Hackman / Paytas Hackman family channel, and the timeline and events that have gotten us here, and kind of my thoughts and opinions, along with the little bit of like analysis type beat with everything going on. We're going through the mommy vlogger arc together. Chapters for the video will be down below as well for thou viewing pleasure. But first, links, sources, socials, Amazon, Patreon, ways to support the channel, all linked down below, along with an email to suggest content in longer form. I read all the emails. I don't necessarily answer the emails, but know that I do read them all. Also, there is a link for a jewelry website called Every Jewels, which has a 50% off sale all December. I get an affiliate kickback from that link, just an FYI, but my code, Mika, or my link down below, stacks an extra 10% off of whatever sale they're having, which for December seems to be 50% off. I'm just letting you know because all of a sudden people seem to be using it. So it's there if you would like. Excellent. All right. Also, thank you so much to my beautiful, iconic, darling patron besties. Names will be on screen. Ooh. Also, my letterboard of truth. If you can't see it because it's in the depth of field, it says Santa Slay, but S-L-A-Y. Yeehaw. All right, let's get right into the parts of the video. There's 3 parts of the video today as per the usual. There is part 1, Frenemies, H3, and relationship with the beginning of the relationship with Moses. Part 2, Trisha Paytas' fleeting success. And part 3, the Paytas Hackman family channel. Also, I'm going to be using, I believe, she, her pronouns, as long as I don't switch up or whatever, given that it appears Trisha has gone back to them. Like, essentially fully. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to purposely misgender somebody, but when I was looking and watching videos, it seems like it's she, her now. Like, everything's, we're kind of come back. So, that is all. Part 1, let's get into this fun tale of Miss Trisha Paytas Hackman, I guess. If we can recall, we go back to our Lord and Savior, the year 2020-ish, or maybe even late 2019, I don't remember. I think it was 2020 though. The very origin of Trisha Paytas' relationship with Moses was kind of bred out of a place of spite. First seeming to spite Ethan Klein, given their kind of war, because Ethan Klein made a video on the H3H Productions channel called Instagram versus Reality, where he made fun of Trisha Paytas' photo editing and difference in appearance in videos versus photo shoots and things that she posts on Instagram.
Come on, people, let's get a grip here. Yes! This girl is the spokesman of Instagram reality. Why are you even a model if you're gonna modify your looks that much? It's like from beauty queen to WWF wrestler in 2 seconds. You cannot Photoshop your heart and soul. Remember that. This girl tried to use a face filter on Instagram and her phone blew up. Here's another one of her. She is the best. Isn't she not the best? Would people even recognize her if they saw her on the street? I mean, she is unrecognizable. This is Coachella versus throwing down in the McDonald's parking lot at 3 a.m.
So then Trisha Paytas appeared on the H3 podcast. And upon that first present, she had returned on a couple of episodes, which eventually turned into a relationship between Trisha Paytas and Hila Klein's brother, Moses. Now, it was very interesting, the factors that led to this, right? Because there were actually many advancements that Trisha did on the podcast towards Ethan Klein.
I deserve you.
Oh, God.
Yeah. You're so much
So
better.
let me ask you this. If
together.
Hila took your advice and moved on, would you make a move on me?
Yes.
Oh, God.
So is that what you were trying to do the whole time?
I was trying to break. No, I truly do think you deserve better. I didn't know.
But if I'm a 10, what's better than 10? That's 100%.
For the record, I did not know you actually had a kid. I thought that was a troll, to be honest. So I'm sorry.
Everything
I
is a
apologize.
troll.
I know. I literally thought that was like a.
We literally have a child that's half me and
Okay,
half
I
her
didn't
DNA.
know that.
A
so
newborn baby.
Why would we lie about
And there is an overall fetishization of Jewish men. There are videos about this. Mr. Beard has a pretty good video on the way that Trisha Paytas has treated the Jewish community. I will link that down below. There are also, I've made a couple videos talking about Trisha on the Mom's Basement podcast. I talk about Trisha Paytas here and there. I also have a video called The Trisha Paytas Effect, where you get a bit more into Trisha Paytas' past as a whole. However, given those advances towards Ethan Klein, there were also kind of tensions between Hila and Trisha for a really long time that seemed to have actually never been absolved. There was also, like I said, an overall spiteful relationship between Trisha and Hila. So when Trisha was a contestant on the second attempt at the H3 Bachelor show, which the first attempt was with the used to be called Ian the Intern, now is just Ian, I think, called Ian Slater. So Ian was the first one they wanted, and then they tried Trisha, and both of those actually didn't work out. So Trisha ended up hooking up with Moses. At one point kind of implying that it was to spite Ethan, as if it was kind of funny to, like, be able to hook up with his brother-in-law.
Can I tell you the truth? Like, honestly?
Yes.
Because, like, at first it was like, I just thought it was just, like, funny. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so funny. Like, I just, like, and then like, I'm coming back on the podcast. Like, your brother.
Yeah. And?
Yeah.
That's it?
I mean, that's how it started, for sure.
So do you usually f people out of just to make a joke? It's kind
Yeah. Oh, no, not always, but, like, yeah. Like, sometimes to be like, oh, I person. It's, like, funny.
And as a result of all of these factors put together, naturally, people were very spiteful of Trisha and Moses' relationship. Not necessarily spiteful, but they were very hesitant to believe that it was valid, that it really made sense that this relationship came to be in the way that it was. Upon beginning the Frenemies podcast in September of 2020, there were quickly instances of domestic abuse and instances of aggression in the relationship between Trisha and Moses, with Moses allegedly cheating and DMing other women, some that Trisha alleged were underage, if I remember correctly. I'll put the clip in to correct myself.
I don't like that you're going through his messages every night. I find that I find that possessive.
Well, there's just, like, a little issue, like, a couple months ago before we were dating. And I was just like, I just need to know for my own trust. But, you know, now that I have it, I really don't look. I think, like, the first night I was, like, so excited. And now I'm like, oh, like, he literally doesn't respond. And it's just girls being thirsty.
There were also, Trisha punched Moses and talked about it on the Frenemies podcast. Just overall, too, a lot of devaluing each other's privacy and not valuing a lot of aspects that usually would be valued in a relationship. So from the very beginning, people were very confused about this dynamic and were assuming it wasn't going to last. Then the relationship between Trisha and Moses continued throughout the podcast. Trisha and Moses in December of 2020 having an interesting desert photo shoot where they got engaged. And over time, too, as Trisha and Ethan's relationship improved from enemies to friends kind of thing, hence the Frenemies name, obviously, the dynamic between the two families seemed to have improved as well. However, with Hila always having a little bit of hesitance towards Trisha Paytas, that lasts to this day and is an advocate for Ethan to not talk about Trisha on the current H3 podcast. Upon the Frenemies podcast ending in June of 2021, tensions between Trisha and the Klein family were at the highest point. And there was a constant back and forth between Ethan and Trisha over multiple platforms, primarily YouTube and Twitter, that actually drove apart Hila and her brother Moses.
She called my wife, like, the C word. She called me, you know, she said the most horrible things. She said, I'm a terrible parent. Hila's a terrible parent. And for me, it's like, okay. And I understand, again, that she has mental health. She has mental like health issues, but at the end of the day, it's just not. I don't feel like it's fair. Even though she has those issues, it's just I can't be her emotional punching bag. And then the minute I speak up for myself, it turns into another like show-ending fight. It's just not a fair relationship.
So, given that constant back and forth between Ethan and Trisha, drama channels and other such media were reporting all of this, and Trisha had popularity. Especially given that the Frenemies podcast kind of posed this redemption arc for Trisha Paytas, where people were trying to, put aside the years of trolling and other problematic behavior that Trisha has had, because Ethan Klein was presenting this more positive side of Trisha Paytas and was more trusted than people the likes of Shane Dawson, who would parade around Trisha Paytas at that time, which their friendship actually also fell apart during the Frenemies podcast. We get into part 2 with Trisha Paytas' fleeting success. If we get back to the push and pull dynamic between Ethan and Trisha, you can see that there was a redemption arc created for Trisha Paytas. A lot of this arc was pushed by kind of the nature of taking down other people. So there was an episode with talking about the Jeffree Star Hair by Jay debacle and how Hair by Jay was awful to Trisha Paytas. There was the David Dobrik cancellation arc as well. And I think a lot of this is because of the way that the internet kind of works in dichotomies or in two parties. Where one must come, there's that saying, all must come up, must come down. It's almost like online is if one must come up, the other comes down. So even if we think back to Dramageddon from 2019, when James Charles got canceled, Jeffree Star and Tati Westbrook hit their all-time high subscriber counts. And then when people realized what was going on, it switched back again. There always has to be this, it's always like a scale, as opposed to kind of a general consensus. I always say this when I talk about people on these videos. I say the thing with the internet is they seem to never understand that two things can exist at once. David Dobrik can be terrible, and Trisha can be terrible. Now, in retrospect, now that view is seen, more or less. However, that took a long time to get there. It doesn't seem that there can be open criticism on both ends. Once Ethan Klein was turned on by Trisha Paytas in the surprise video, where she essentially announced that she's not coming back to the Frenemies podcast, which, if I recall from when they were uploaded, it was uploaded around the same time or just before the actual Frenemies podcast went up.
I was reading the comments, the members only one went up, and a lot of people were upset by my little episode yesterday, and I usually wake up the next morning feeling like regret for the way I acted, but I realized this morning that and then last night, of course, I talked to Ethan, and, he was saying the crew is really upset with me. And that they didn't want to film the vlog today. And I respect that, and I respect him being on their side. And Ethan and I had a lot of text conversations last night. And even before all that, before the crew thing, before the episode even went up, there was a lot of things that I just didn't feel right about.
The decade-long pattern of behavior of this kind of unstable, inconsistent type that was really into trolling and was very self-serving came back in full swing, with people turning on Trisha, causing lots of talk on r/H3H3 Productions, r/Trishyland, and other such Frenemies dedicated subreddits. The peaks of these were fleeting depending on certain circumstances, and other subreddits came up as others came down, kind of thing. But people came to understand that Trisha wasn't going to change. That got rid of a lot of the newfound support for Trisha Paytas. Because one thing, you can say whatever you want about Ethan Klein, the new fan base is dedicated, and they will support who Ethan supports. So Trisha lost a substantial subscriber base because, whether you want to say it or not, the H3 podcast still gets on average over 1 million views an episode, which 3 or 4 episodes a week go up, right? So you're getting a very substantial, consistent viewer base because Trisha Paytas does not hit 1 million views a video. Frenemies, in retrospect, served as a last chance for Trisha Paytas despite the mass speculation that did remain from a lot of people. But with the speculative nature of the redemption arc, people were willing to very quickly disregard Trisha and not give any chance to any future antics. And this really reflected in Trisha Paytas' view counts. And given that people felt that they could have faith in a more authentic Trisha Paytas from the Frenemies podcast, to have seen that she still, backstabbed Ethan to whatever their opinions were, this is based on what I read on the H3 subreddit and stuff like that, people were not into giving any more chances. Despite Trisha Paytas' few attempts, there was the ASMR channel, there was the pop punk band Sad Boy 2005, there was some music videos with an Ocean and Moses and stuff. There was a lot of different attempts for these kind of antics that fizzled out very quickly, and Trisha Paytas was not able to get back to where she was during the Frenemies podcast. However, there was a new upcoming arc that was to come. The wedding to Moses arc, and quickly after that, after just seemingly one round of fertility treatment, the pregnancy arc. To which now we get to the final part of the video, the Paytas Hackman family channel. Trisha, despite being critical of all types of kind of family dynamics online, including particularly being aggressive towards the D'Amelio family and the D'Amelio parents when talking about them on the Frenemies podcast, created a family vlogging channel titled the Paytas Hackman Family Channel prior to even giving birth to baby Malibu Barbie Paytas Hackman.
And whatever you got, we'll
Not
take
my
it.
Complain that they have
boyfriend.
95 million followers. They complain that they have a personal chef, and it's just unbecoming. And I don't think it's something to be embarrassed about because they are young girls, but to be catty and bratty in the comments when people are just like, hey, we're kind of like, this isn't cool behavior. It's just trying to help them learn and ultimately not get canceled, because this kind of attitude, it won't get you far.
I mean, it was just
Period.
how they were
Let me
replying
know what
to
you think in
fans.
the
That's what I said there. It's like how she was responding to people giving them criticism. She was being such a little bitch about it. I was like, girl, like, be humble. They're saying
Okay,
we don't
so-
like this attitude from you.
Pregnancy sparked controversy given Trisha Paytas' problematic past and the seemingly tumultuous relationship with her partner Moses. Because people were worried about the way the relationship was shown on the podcast, the way that Trisha flaunted Moses in weird ways and was really aggressive towards Ethan Klein and discarded all those dynamics with those two families, that people were quite cruel when the announcement came to be. People were quite shocked and were saying that Trisha was an unfit mother. Have with that whatever opinion you want, because we'll get into a little part of where I think there's issues with the inability to criticize this certain aspect. When the baby was due, there were rumors of the baby being born the same day that Queen Elizabeth II passed away, resulting in a slew of memes of Trisha Paytas' baby, Malibu Barbie, being the reincarnation of Queen Elizabeth II. So naturally, there was a lot of, gas in the tank for being able to go off with this new baby arc and to be the Ace family / 7 passengers, I think, / something else, name insert family channel, Prince family, something that Trisha dreamed to be. And with all the news around the birth, all eyes were on Trisha and allotted for a pretty sturdy launch for the baby content on the family channel. And this appeared to be another rebrand. However, people were really quickly able to see that it seemed to have been once again incentivized by income, given the failed attempts at resurfacing her career post Frenemies podcast. And that it seemed to be well known on the platform that the CPM that the family channels have are just ungodly amounts of money, and I envy them every single day. Not that I want to exploit children for money on a platform, but that CPM is just, chef's kiss. And if you want to argue that you don't think it was necessarily for money, Trisha implies this with her own TikToks, and I'll insert a couple of them here. See, so there's this interest in income and ad revenue and trying to take advantage of the systems, and family channels are known to be a huge part of that, and Trisha Paytas has been critical of them in the past. What I think is too, I think this, the reason why she went to a family channel is I feel like people see motherhood as like an untouchable element of criticism. In the sense of if you don't know how they're going to be a mother, it's like speculation. Because Trisha Paytas had stated that she had wanted to be pregnant for a really long time and wanted to have a baby, that a lot of people were like, just leave it be, see how it turns out, don't be hateful towards Trisha Paytas, which I think is fair. However, given Trisha Paytas' patterns of trolling and taking advantage of any sort of good graces or negative graces that she has, I think there's a certain element of shielding being implemented into this channel, with kind of the fluffy content and ignoring controversy and a lot of flaunting of the baby from quite literally the second the baby was born. I was getting suggested TikToks from Trisha, like essentially a day or two after the baby was born, seemingly like almost nonstop. And obviously there's hypocrisy here, right? And because of like the criticisms and post Frenemies led to a lot of exhaustion from the internet community, so they were not even willing to give Trisha and Moses the benefit of the doubt at this point. And as a result, it seems to have not really like reached the popularity that Trisha desired. It's nothing impressive. There's also quite a lot of boring vlogs. I watched one on my live stream last week where it was just Trisha putting clothes on Poshmark. It's nothing special. I think Trisha's personality used to be able to carry her like zero effort content to like these levels of extreme success. And then obviously there was content that she put effort into, like those music videos, you know, the classic I love you Jesus, you know, all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to wash my face. I've been trying to plunge this toilet for literally 5 days. This is the bathroom I use and I haven't been able to use it. So anyways, we're gonna start off this morning. We're going to have, this thing is bothering me so much. I don't know why. I'm gonna have another facial scheduled.
However, now she can't, used to be able, she could do anything and any type of content, and just knowing her and the kind of sight to see that she was, it could carry to any sort of successful views. But now there's just the benefit of the doubt is gone, the excitement is gone, the enticement is gone. Finally, to sum up too, not to mention the fact that it's boring, but a lot of what these family channels ride off of, let's say for example the Ace family, is this like perfect family dynamic. But the thing is, before this family dynamic even came to be, Trisha Paytas admitted to the relationship being problematic and tumultuous before the engagement, the marriage, or the baby was even born. So, and unlike the Ace family, where I guess it's somewhat speculation, even though it's kind of obvious that there's some problems in that relationship, there could still be an image of that squeaky clean nature, but Trisha Paytas doesn't even have that to fall back on. So it's just a kind of falling castle in a way with this new mommy vlogger arc, which again, I'm so confused this even happened in the first place. But alas, that's my thoughts on everything. So to conclude, Trisha and Moses are an example of people online trying to hop on a train that they're not fit for. We've seen this time and time again where people try to push forward in content that they're not really good at. I would say like Shane Dawson's Haunted series. That's not something that he's particularly good at that he tries to do anyways. You know, there's a lot of examples of this online of people trying to adjust the content they're not necessarily meant for or they don't fit the image of. But alas, links, sources, Amazon, Patreon, ways to support the channel, all linked down below. Thank you again to my patrons. Feel free to suggest any content, and there will be lots of content coming for this lovely month of December. Now, I'll see you when I see you. Y'all have a good night. Bye.
My generation has two genders. Your generation has 89,347.
And my generation also has August by Taylor Swift. Back when we were still changing for the better, one thing was enough.